Hey, connoisseurs, it's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Also, the channel that was created by a retail investor for retail investors and home to the best MJ community. Today's Friday. Happy Friday, September 20th. Hope you're doing awesome. And in this video, we're going to be discussing high tide. We had a Ventum, I'm not actually familiar with this firm, but Ventum Analyst says that high tide is the king among Canadian MJ companies. So we're going to discuss all of this and more. We're also going to take a look at the chart. We've seen MJ continue to get hit, and we're continuing to just see chop and sideways action and more downside. As I mentioned, would more than likely be the case as we continue to see, big tech and crypto, AI, etc., steal the spotlight. But I think into October or up October, we should see some momentum return to the sector. We're going to take a look at the high tide chart toward the end of this video as well. I'll do some analysis. Unfortunately, there is a bearish continuation pattern that is signaling more downside. We could see a drop below $2 USD. So we'll discuss all of that and more. As always, if you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. And I would appreciate a like on the video. And as always, this is not financial advice. You should never buy or sell anything based on anything that I say or write. This is for entertainment purposes only. You can also follow us over on X, formerly Twitter. Handle for that is @GroupPow. Going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. And I did reach out to Raj. I did speak to him on X, and I'm just trying to line up an interview at some point soon. And he said that his team would get back to me. And I also have a few other connections in the space that I'm working on getting an interview. I've got one coming up here in about a month or two with Oxley CEO as well. But this was the article here from Mugglehead Magazine. High tide is king among Canadian MJ stocks, Ventum Financial determines. So a Ventum analyst says, high tide has surpassed earnings expectations for 12 consecutive quarters. So this is, again, I've never heard of them. If anybody's heard of these people, let me know. I've never heard of this financial firm before. But we'll go through the article here. Normally, I don't read the entire article, but it's not very long, so we'll just go through it here. So they say Calgary-based high tide, and I reside in Edmonton, so I'm in the same province. I see Canna Cabanas everywhere, and it's pretty much my go-to shop, right? I only shop at Canna Cabana on Jasper Ave. That's my go-to. I used to only shop at Value Buds, but I've recently converted over to quote them, the king of MJ. And I have something to say about that, right? They're a retailer, so they're not a producer. You can't just say the king of Canadian MJ stocks, in my opinion, because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You're comparing apples to oranges. One's a retailer and then some are producers. So if you're going to compare it to other retailers, that's one thing. But I think there's, I do own high tide stock as well, full disclosure. But I think we just, need to be a little bit more differentiating with some of these comments. So analyst, his name is Andrew Semple. He says that the MJ operator has surpassed the firm's earnings expectations for 12 consecutive quarters, and the latest financial results were exemplary. He has given the stock a definitive buy rating with a high share target of $8.50 Canadian, which I don't think is out to lunch or anything like that at all. I think high tide could easily get back to its 200-day moving average. Its 200 weekly moving average at around 335, which would put us close to $5 Canadian. So I think 850, leading into the end of the year here, we have a lot of catalysts coming up and into 2025. I think MJ could be one of the best performing sectors. So I do agree with that price target. I would say over the next, call it 3 to 6 months, I think we have a very good chance of getting there, but definitely at some point in 2025, I think that is more than doable. High tide shrugged off tough Canadian MJ market conditions. May and June retail MJ sales were down by 2.8% and 6.6% year over year, respectively, to deliver another quarter of strong brick and mortar sales growth and market share expansion. And, if you look at some of their square footage, they're right up there with like Walmart and Lululemon. Like there's more MJ stores here in Alberta than there is like McDonald's. It's insane. So what they're doing, I'm not downplaying it. They're basically the Costco of the MJ industry. So they have their retail locations where you can sign up as a loyalty member, and you just basically give them your information, your phone number, you can get discounts. But then you can also become an elite member where you buy a membership. I think it's normally around $50 or $60. I got mine on sale. They were doing a promotion for $30, and they have exclusive products that only elite members can buy. So it's pretty cool. And you feel part of that, that membership, right? It's kind of like that same Costco style. So I love their business model. Like I said, I just have, some things to say about this because, at the end of the day, if you look at alcohol producers and alcohol retailers, distributors, who makes the most money? It's always the manufacturers and the producers, right? So I think the same is going to be with MJ eventually. But again, I think MJ, there's a lot of opportunities out there. High Tide is one of my biggest investments. If you look at my MJ portfolio 2024 update that I just posted a couple of weeks ago, High Tide's right up there. And I'm looking to add more to my position as well. I'm very bullish on it long term, but we have to call a spade. And you just can't lump it into everything in the MJ industry in Canada because they don't even pay excise taxes, right? So how can you say that they're the best MJ stock? I just take issue with that because they don't pay an excise tax, right? They're the best by far in terms of retailers. I could get down to that, right? I would say they're 110% the best in that regard. But to lump them in with Canadian producers and the whole entire Canadian MJ landscape, I think that's just disingenuous. He emphasized that High Tide was on track to take a 15% share of the provincial markets in which it operates, which they mentioned in the call that they had 12%. Oh, yeah, he went on to say that as well. And that's in Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, Ontario, Manitoba. So at the East Coast, it's all government run, right? Like in Prince Edward Island, where I'm from in Canada on the East Coast, there's only I think there's 2 MJ stores in the whole province. It's insane. There's one in Summerside, one in Charlottetown. I think there might be one in Montague. So yeah, maybe there's 3, but there's definitely, it's somewhere between 2 and 4. There's no more than 4, but I'm pretty sure it's 3. It only held 10% 1 year ago. High Tide Chief Executive, so CEO Raj Grover, expressed his satisfaction with the company's fiscal 2024 Q3 results in a LinkedIn post this week. Today we presented our Q3 results and news is good, Grover described. In fact, it's really good. He says that High Tide's cash balance is higher than ever before at 35.3 million Canadian. High Tide remains our highest conviction idea in MJ in the Canadian landscape. Simple explained, the MJ distributor has opened up 21 new stores this year and is shooting to have more than 9 up and running by 2025. There are a total of 183 throughout the country. And as we know, Ontario just recently doubled their store count from 75 to 150. So they've been playing catch up there. So they got a lot of work to do in their own backyard. And they talked about Germany and the US opening up, but they got a lot of work to do, right? Just ramping up to those 150 stores in Ontario. Seems like every day they're opening a new store and then they can expand, here in their home province of Alberta and then BC as well, right? But pretty much all over Canada. And then I think Germany will be next on deck and then the US, right? So we're talking probably multiple years out. High Tide partners with MJ Events Company in Alberta. So I mentioned this before. So in one of my videos, and they also acquired Queen of Bud in March. But yeah, this is great to see that they're partnering with festivals and trade shows. And I mentioned in one of my videos as well that the great outdoor music festival that had Kevin Hart here in Edmonton, they had the first ever event where you could buy MJ products. So this is a trend that's not going to slow down. In fact, it's probably only going to ramp up, and just wait until we see it in bars and, you go see the Edmonton Oilers play an NHL game or an NFL game. Maybe NFL, you can go buy some pre-rolls, but you're definitely not going to be able to go see, the Colorado Avalanche or the Edmonton Oilers inside where you can't even smoke cigarettes. You can't even, if you leave, you can't get back in, right? So, it's not going to be, you're not going to be able to go buy pre-rolls. You'll be able to buy probably edibles or beverages. In my opinion, beverages are going to be the segment of choice when you're going to these events, especially indoor events like a hockey game or something like that, right? But yeah, restaurants, pubs, you name it, concerts, events, festivals, it's going to be a big category, the beverage segment. And then, like I said, just having this in these different festivals and whatnot is a huge testament to the industry maturing and really starting to show, acceptance at the national level. And it's only going to get bigger from here, bigger and better. And the U.S. is starting to see a lot of festivals and things like that as well. So it's only a matter of time. You got Tilray partnered with the Denver Broncos as well. So you're going to see MJ infused beverages everywhere. So love to see it. But kudos to them for that partnership. We'll take a look at the chart here at the moment. So again, it's frustrating. The S&P 500 hit brand new all-time highs. And, we've got some stocks, mostly crypto, tech, Magnificent Seven. You got the AI, you got electric vehicles, right? Those are the popular stocks at the moment. And as the saying goes, the stock market is a popularity contest. And right now, just no one cares about MJ, right? Until big tech, AI, crypto, electric vehicles, when they enter a bear market and they see their blow off top moment, I think MJ will, get hit pretty hard. But if we see, a 5-10% dip on the S&P 500, obviously MJ is going to dip. But if there's news to counteract that, then if there's positive news, a positive catalyst like Florida getting approved, right, which could happen, which I think will happen, that could offset any kind of market weakness. But bearing any, if there's no news and the S&P 500 were to drop 5-10%, well, MJ stocks are going to get crushed, right, from their already low levels. So you have to keep that in mind. And that's why, I own more crypto than I do MJ. And I sound like a broken record, but you have to be real with it. And right now I'm just being real, and don't hate me. Don't hate the messenger. I'm just relaying what the charts are saying. And right now we do have a descending triangle on the hourly time frame. And it's saying that if we lose the low there, if we lose 209, then I think we're heading to that 188 target. And you would just take your target there from the high to the low and then move it out to your support line there. And then you can see it's just a series of lower highs and a horizontal line of support, whereas in ascending triangles, a series of higher lows and a horizontal line of resistance, right? So you could draw that like this, where you would have the line like that, and then you would break higher lows and higher highs, and generally you break to the upside, right? And then you see that continuation. But this is a descending triangle where it's a series of lower highs and lower lows, and most often it breaks to the downside. So brace for more downside. We could potentially see 188 USD here on the NASDAQ. Also on the daily time frame, we just had a death cross as well. So it's entirely possible that does confirm here in the short term. Like I said, I've been bearish on the sector for the last couple of months, and I said that we could potentially see one leg down, and we did. And right now, I still think there's potential for one more leg down and just some choppy sideways action. But leading into October, I think we're going to start to see momentum pick up into a month before the elections. They're really going to start to promote MJ to sway young voters. But that's just the short term. Short term, not looking too hot, but medium term to longer term, it's looking pretty good. We just had a MACD bull cross on the weekly, and we had a stochastic bull cross. We're back above the 10-week moving average. We had the 10-week moving average there at 196. And then on the weekly time frame here, we have the 50 weekly there at 191. So I think we could come back and test that. If we do lose 188, then we have next support at 166 USD. So I think it's entirely possible that we come back down, test 188, and then resume higher, like I said, for another couple of weeks. I think we could still see a little bit more chop and sell pressure. But then leading into October, I think we're going to start to see momentum pick back up in the space, and we should get some some tailwinds from the broader market as well. Q4 typically a good time for the stock market, and then also election year. So, all right, going into there, let me know what you think of this news. Do you think that High Tide is the king of the entire MJ space, or do you think it is better to say that they're king of the retail space in Canadian MJ? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, going into there, it's Rod with Power Group. Thanks again for joining us in the Pursuit of Wealth. Once again, happy Friday. Hope you have a great weekend ahead, and we'll see you again on the next video.